Hello again. It's me. And yes, I've received more letters. This time, they came from cops, dispatchers, officers, men and women who have seen the things most of us never will, and who still can't sleep because of them. 5 stories tonight. 5 nights where routine calls twisted into pure nightmare. Proof, once again, that safety is only an illusion. But before I read them to you, tell me, where are you listening from right now? Are you alone? Do you trust the silence around you? If you don't, maybe you shouldn't. Hit the like button, subscribe, and stay close. Because you don't want to miss the next true story when the night goes quiet. Now, let's begin. "911 calls from the cemetery. I wasn't a cop. I was a dispatcher. The faceless voice on the other end of 911 when people whispered their last hopes into the dark. Most nights, it was routine. A fender bender. A drunk husband making noise. Sometimes a burglary, sometimes worse. But the job was simple: keep calm, keep talking, send help. That night, though, I picked up the phone and answered someone who should not have been calling at all. The first call came in around 10:07 p.m. My screen lit up with an unknown cell number. I slipped on my headset. 911, what's your emergency? Nothing. Just static. A rushing, hissing sound that made my teeth ache. Can you hear me? This is 911, what's going on? The hiss deepened, filled my ear, and then one faint word. Hello? A woman's voice. Thin. Fragile. Shaking. And then the line went dead. I leaned back, blinking. Could have been a prank. Could have been a bad connection. But something in that single word, it clung to me. At 10:14, the phone rang again. Same number. Same static. Hello? And then silence. It kept happening. Dozens of times. Every call the same, hiss a weak. Hello? And nothing more. We tried calling back, but no one ever picked up. We pinged the carrier for an address, but all we got was a vague tower location, miles wide. By midnight, the rest of dispatch was whispering about it. My supervisor muttered that it was probably kids screwing with us. But no kid sounds like that. That voice was old. Tired. And every time she said, hello, it sounded less like a greeting, and more like a plea. Finally, at 1:53 a.m., something changed. Our system upgraded the trace to Phase 2 coordinates. A real location. A dot on the map. I felt my chest tighten as the screen zoomed in. A dirt road. A patch of trees. And then the address appeared. Not a house. Not an apartment. A cemetery. I read the address into my headset anyway, trying to keep my voice calm. Ma'am, are you calling from Maple Grove Cemetery? This time, she answered clearly. No static. Her voice slid into my ear, soft as frost. Yes. That sounds right. My throat went dry. Okay, stay on the line with me. What's the problem? There was a pause. Then she whispered. My heat, it's gone out. I'm so cold. Please, can you help me? Every hair on my body stood up. Of course, I said, forcing steadiness. We're sending help right now. Can you tell me your name? The line crackled. Static swelled again, swallowing her words. But I thought, just for a second, I heard her say, Clara. I dispatched the nearest deputy, telling him to check the area. He grunted back in acknowledgement, like it was just another welfare check. But it wasn't. Because as he drove, the calls kept coming. Clara whispered over and over. I'm cold. Please hurry. I don't want to be alone anymore. My skin prickled. She didn't sound afraid of dying. She sounded afraid of being forgotten. Then, at exactly 2:12 a.m., my deputy's voice crackled through the radio. Dispatch. I'm here. Address is correct. But there's nothing out here. No houses, no lights. Just headstones. I stared at the map on my screen. The pin was solid. Fixed. Right in the middle of that cemetery. She says she's there, I whispered, even though I knew how insane it sounded. The radio went quiet for a beat. Then the deputy said, lower now, almost hesitant. Dispatch. I thought I heard something. A woman's voice. Sounded like it was right behind me. But there's no one here. The line in my ear filled with static. And through it, Clara's voice cut sharp, urgent. He's here. The call dropped. The phone never rang again. The number went dead. The cell company swore no one was registered to it. But I still hear her sometimes, in the quiet after midnight. A whisper crawling through the static. Hello? And every time, I remember the way she ended her last call. Not asking for warmth. Not asking for help. But warning me. He's here. But here's the question that keeps me awake at night. What if the next call comes from somewhere closer? Keep listening. Because the next story isn't about phone lines. It's about footsteps in an empty house, toys that move on their own. And a woman who learned that sometimes, the intruder is already inside. The toys moved themselves. I used to be a cop. This was the house that made me believe the quiet can be predatory. The call hit my console at 3:02 a.m. Domestic disturbance, possible prowler. I rolled up to a century-old place at the edge of town, a big white box with a wall of kitchen windows that had no curtains. Every lamp inside was on like a stage. You could stand in the yard and see a person breathe. She met me at the door in a sweater and bare feet. Her name doesn't matter. Her hands did, shaking so hard she kept missing the deadbolt. He's trying to scare me, she said. My husband. Soon to be ex. The house smelled like lemon cleaner and dust. In the kitchen, toys were scattered everywhere. Plastic scooters, a doll half buried under a blanket, those wooden blocks with letters stamped into them. She told me none of it was out when she went to bed. I woke up to noises, she said. Came down, found this. Windows? Doors? I asked. Locked, she said. Always. I believed her. Every latch was set. No pry marks, no footprints in the dew outside. I made a slow circuit with my flashlight, the beams skimming crown molding and crooked door frames. The house groaned under its own memories. In the breakfast area, the glass looked out onto black yard. Nothing moved except my reflection. Still, I felt watched. Where's your husband? I asked. Across town, she said. He wouldn't come here. I knew the guy vaguely from school, the kind who turns brave when you're not around. I cleared the place, downstairs closets, the mudroom, the spider-thin stair to the second floor. At the top was the worst room, not for what it had but for what it didn't, a door on the attic. The paint was 100 years thick. The knob turned like it was glued with bones. I opened it. Dust and heat. Old trunks. Nothing alive. By the time I came back down, she'd stacked the toys against the wall like a barricade. I helped her finish, knowing it wouldn't matter against a real person, but doing it anyway, for the ritual. She laughed once, a tiny, wreck sound, like she was embarrassed to be afraid. I told her I'd swing by the husband's place. I did. He was home, truck cold, eyes puffy with sleep and ego. He didn't deny anything, he just looked small. The kind of small that wants to look big. 2 nights later, a second call. Same address. Same hour. Same voice that wouldn't use the word. Haunted. On my way, I did something I never do, stopped first at the husband's. Banged until he came to the door in shorts and an alibi. Then I took the back roads fast and quiet. Her house was lit again. The toys we'd stacked were everywhere. A scooter lay on its side in the middle of the kitchen, one wheel slowly spinning as if someone had just walked away. I stared at it a beat too long. I heard footsteps. she whispered. Right above me. But the floor was cold. Like the steps went through it. Stay behind me, I said. She did. Literally. Fingers hooked in the back of my shirt like a scared kid at a parade. We moved room to room, pantry, dining room, parlor, study. Nothing. My radio hissed once, then went quiet. The whole house seemed to be waiting to exhale. At the base of the stairs, a doll face down on the runner. It hadn't been there when we came in. I told myself I just hadn't seen it. I told myself a lot of things, because that's what you do when you keep people from falling apart. Halfway up, the banister was notched by time into a pattern that looked like teeth marks. I touched one, more out of superstition than investigation. The wood felt somehow warm. On the landing, a small plastic ball bumped against the baseboard. Once. Twice. 3 times. No slope. No draft. I tried not to show what that did to my pulse. In the master bedroom, the bed was made. In the corner sat a toy chest with its lid propped open by a brass hinge shaped like a leaf. I lifted the lid the rest of the way and stared down at emptiness. Beside me, the woman stepped closer to see. Behind us, the closet door clicked. Not flung open. Not rattled. Just a clean, polite click, latch disengaged. My gun never came up. That's the part that bothers me most, even now. I don't know why. Training says you clear the immediate unknown. Something older than training said don't. I set the toy chest lid down and stood. The closet creaked open an inch like it was listening. I used the toe of my boot to nudge it wider. Hangers. Dresses. The smell of lavender and something metallic deeper in the plaster that made my tongue taste like a penny. Empty. Okay, I said, more to the house than to her. We're done. We went back downstairs. In the kitchen, a wooden block now sat alone on the counter. The letter facing up was AG. It hadn't been there before. I told myself a cat could have done it. She didn't have a cat. Do you want to stay here tonight? I asked. She shook her head so hard a tear came loose. I'm going to my mom's, she said. Right now. I stood in the doorway as she threw clothes into a bag and carried her child out to the car. The house watched us through its glass wall, every pan and utensil reflecting a little version of me I didn't recognize. Before she left, she looked at me like I had the power to bless the ground. Will you check once more? She asked. Of course. One more sweep. Kitchen. Den study. Dining. At the foot of the stairs, that plastic scooter wheel still. On the runner, no doll. On the landing, no ball. In the bedroom, the toy chest closed. In the closet, a smell. Cold and wrong. Gone when I inhaled to find it again. I closed the bedroom door and turned toward the hall. That's when the attic door at the end of the corridor, 50 feet away, moved. Not a breeze. Not a settling. The old paint skin cracked along the frame as if a palm had pressed once from the other side. I didn't open it. Not because I was afraid. Because sometimes you don't answer a knock you can't explain. I locked up and walked out under the bright, artificial light that makes night feel safe. She pulled away and I watched her taillights vanish. The kitchen windows burned like a theater closing after the scene. Days later she moved. Some friends I trust live in that same house now. No problems. No toys. No noises. When I visit, the rooms are full of normal air. But if I stand too long by the stairs, I feel like my name is being practiced in a mouth I can't see. People ask what I think really happened. I don't know. Maybe grief can pace a hallway. Maybe fear can learn the shape of a house and wear it like a coat. Maybe some nights, the intruder is already inside, and it doesn't need a body to break things. What I know is this: the worst part wasn't that we found nothing. It's that something found us, and let us walk away. But for another officer, the nightmare looked very different. Not toys. Not closets. Not whispers. Instead, blood, screams, and the sight of a man tearing himself apart with a knife while his children were trapped inside. Keep listening, because the next story is one of the most gruesome things a cop can witness. Proof that horror doesn't always need the supernatural. The man with the knife. I thought I'd seen it all. I was a cop for long enough that the routine should have hardened me: domestics, drunks, wrecks. But one night burned itself into me like a brand. Because sometimes the danger isn't about protecting yourself. It's about watching someone destroy themselves in front of you. It started around 4 a.m. A car had slammed into a light pole on a rural road. No one inside, no one waiting. Just broken glass and the echo of metal cooling in the night. My partner and I figured the driver ran. Drunk, embarrassed, hiding in the fields. That's when we heard the screaming. A woman sprinted out of the only nearby house, barefoot, wild-eyed, straight toward our cruisers. She was shrieking at the top of her lungs, stumbling as though the ground itself pushed her forward. "It's my car! It's my husband! He tried to kill himself!" She was sobbing, talking so fast the words tangled. "He downed a bottle of pills. When that didn't work, he drove into the pole. Then he came back and locked himself inside with the kids. He has a knife. He told me to leave." My stomach turned cold. The children were still in there. We moved in fast, weapons ready, ears straining in the dark. The house lights were on, glowing warm and silent against the night. Too silent. Then, one by one, they began to blink off. Click. 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 The house went dark, as if it was closing its own eyes. We circled to the back door. That's when my partner's flashlight cut across him. He was already outside, watching us. He crouched low, bare chest streaked with tattoos, jeans soaked from the wreck. His head was cocked like a broken doll, eyes wide, unblinking. And in his hand, a butcher knife. 12 inches of steel catching the light. We froze. Guns drawn but low. He didn't move. Didn't speak. Just stared. And then, without a sound, he began cutting. He dragged the knife across his arms, his chest, opening himself up in red lines. My partner shouted, "Stop! Talk to us!" But the man just kept going. His body was slick, his breath heaving. Then he looked straight at us, lifted the blade to his neck, and sliced. Not deep, just enough to bleed, enough to make my own pulse hammer like it was trying to escape my throat. He screamed. Not words, just a raw, animal howl that tore the night apart. We pleaded with him. Told him we wouldn't hurt him, told him his kids were safe, told him he could still choose to stop. But he was gone, lost in whatever storm had swallowed him. He slashed his thighs, his chest, even his face. I'd seen blood before. Not like this. He staggered toward us, arms dripping, begging us to kill him. My finger twitched on the trigger. But I couldn't do it. Neither could my partner. We backed, circling, keeping distance, waiting him out. His movements slowed. The cuts had drained him. His breathing faltered. Finally, he stumbled, knife slipping from his hand, body collapsing into the dirt. We pounced, kicking the blade away, hands pressing on wounds that gaped like mouths. The ambulance screeched in seconds later. I still remember the doctor's voice after surgery. 250 stitches. He lived. No charges. They said he was in treatment now, getting help. The kids were safe. The wife stayed. But 3 months later, I pulled over a car for speeding. Same man behind the wheel. His family in the back seat. When he saw me, he broke down sobbing, got out of the car, and hugged me like a child. He whispered, "Thank you for not killing me." I didn't know what to say. That night I realized, sometimes the horror isn't the monster outside your window. It's the human unraveling in front of you. But what happens when the danger isn't a stranger on the road? And not even a man tearing himself apart, but someone you invited inside your home? Keep listening. Because the next story isn't about suicide or broken glass. It's about a so-called family friend hiding in the shadows. An officer who caught the glint of an eye through a wooden screen. And a confession that chills to this day. I just wanted to smear blood on the walls. The man behind the screen. I wasn't supposed to be there. I just cleared a noise complaint 2 blocks over when the call came in. Possible burglary in progress, 3rd floor apartment. Witness saw a pair of feet slide through the window. Not running footsteps. Not a crash. Just feet. We took the stairs quiet. The hallway smelled like old carpet and boiled onions. My partner waited by the stairwell while I knocked. Standard knocks, then that harder, rhythmic one that says police. No answer. The neighbor, an older woman with curlers, peeked out, eyes wide. She whispered, "She's not home." I heard a scrape and looked out, saw shoes disappear into her place. She pointed to the fire escape, black and slick with drizzle. The bedroom window was cracked open, curtain breathing in and out like a lung. We announced again and went in with her spare key. The door swung open into a living room that looked staged for a real estate listing. Plants, soft lamplight, framed photos of a woman and a kid at the beach. Nothing broken. Nothing tossed. Polite. That word lodged in my head and didn't leave. "Police!" I called. "If you're inside, make yourself known." Silence soaked up my voice. We cleared the kitchen first. Fridge hummed. A glass sat upside down on the drying rack, ring of water underneath like a halo. The bathroom was clean, towel folded on the rail in that neat hotel triangle. No steam on the mirror. No prints on the counter. In the bedroom, the window latch had fresh scratches. The curtain moved against my sleeve when I stepped past it, cold air, metallic, like the night had teeth. Back to the living room. That's when I noticed it. The carved wooden room divider she used as a feature. One of those freestanding screens with hundreds of little geometric cutouts. It stood between the couch and a narrow hallway, throwing lacework shadows across the rug. I don't know why I looked twice. Maybe the way the shadows fell. Maybe because the whole apartment felt like it was holding its breath. I swept my light left to right. The beams slid across the screen, caught briefly on a small circle, and flashed back at me. Not a reflection. Not metal. Something wet and living. An eye. It was just a pinprick of shine in a field of darkness, but once you see an eye you can't unsee it. The pupil jittered, trying to track me through the holes. "Don't move," I said. My voice came out too calm to be honest. My partner was on my shoulder in a heartbeat. We split. He angled toward the hall. I took the divider. I flattened my palm against the wood. It was warm. "Step out with your hands up," I said. Slowly. Nothing. The eyeballs shifted. The tiniest scratch of fabric against wood. "Now." He slid out from behind the screen the way a spill creeps across a floor, eyes on my badge, hands high but trembling. Mid-30s, clean-shaven, sweater like a gift from a relative who loved him more than he deserved. He smelled like dryer sheets and old cologne. "I know her," he said quickly, too quickly. "We're friends. From school. She was expecting me." "She isn't home," I said. "And you came through the window." He blinked, calculating whether the truth could save him. "I didn't want to bother the neighbors with the door," he said. We cuffed him. He didn't fight. He didn't even flinch. He looked around the apartment like he was saying goodbye to it in his head. On the way down, the neighbor with curlers watched from her doorway, hand over her mouth. "I told her to stop seeing him," she whispered to no one in particular. "He always looked hungry." At the station, he sat small in an interview room under buzzing fluorescents, wrists pink where the cuffs had been. The detective asked the basics: how he got in, why he was there, what he planned to do. He gave us the script first. He'd knocked. He'd waited. He'd worried she'd fallen. He'd climbed the fire escape out of concern. He was about to call 911 when we arrived. It was all very reasonable, if you pretended there wasn't a window latch filed down like a chewed fingernail. The detective let the silence grow teeth. What did you intend to do once you were inside? He asked, voice flat. The man stared at the one-way glass, at the version of himself he could almost see if he squinted. He smiled at it, tired, private, and then he told us something he didn't have to. I just wanted to smear a little blood on the walls, he said. He said it the way you might talk about finally repainting a room. Calm. Patient. Like a plan he'd been saving. I've interrogated liars. They sweat. They stammer. They reach too hard for details or none at all. This wasn't that. This sounded like a memory he'd practiced. After that, he lawyered up. We booked him for burglary. We took his statement, his fingerprints, his shoelaces. The woman got home before dawn to find her curtains still breathing, the fire escape damp with mist, a chalky rectangle on the rug where the screen had stood while we dusted for prints. I watched her read our report with both hands. Her eyes kept dragging back to one sentence, like a tide. I just wanted to smear a little blood on the walls. Weeks later, a restraining order. New locks. A camera pointed at the hallway that failed 3 times before finally working. He pled to a lesser charge. The judge said words about rehabilitation. I nodded at the right moments, and thought about the eye behind the wood, how close it had been to my face without a breath between us. People ask me why that one sticks. We caught him. Nobody died. No blood on any walls. It's not the crime. It's the closeness. The fact that if I hadn't swept my light a second time, his eye might never have shown. He would have stayed there, standing inside someone else's life, waiting for her to walk through her own door. That was my arrest. Her apartment. Her narrow escape. But for another woman, too late, was already idling at the curb. Keep listening. Because the next story isn't about a man hiding in plain sight. It's about an ex-husband with a trunk, duct tape over a mouth, and a race down a dark highway to stop a promise he'd made. I'm taking you where no one will ever find you. Abduction by the ex-husband. Some cases stick because of blood. Others because of silence. This one sticks because of the sound of duct tape peeling in the dark. It started with a 911 call just after midnight. A woman's friend reported hearing screams over the phone, then nothing but muffled noise and the thud of a door. The address came through instantly. Middle of nowhere. I hit the lights and tore down the county highway. Another unit went straight to her house. I knew her ex-husband by name. A repeat domestic abuser, the kind of coward who throws punches only at women. He'd been served with a restraining order 2 days earlier. He promised her, "If you put me in jail again, I'll take you somewhere you'll never be found." When I pulled onto the highway toward the county line, headlights appeared ahead. A car I recognized instantly. His old Chevy, dented on the passenger door, plates I'd memorized after too many calls. I floored it. Before I even hit the siren, he swerved hard, brake lights glowing. Then, in something I'll never forget, he jumped out before the car had even stopped rolling, hands raised, screaming, "Arrest me! Just arrest me!" That was the first red flag. He'd never fought us before, but he'd also never volunteered himself like this. I slammed him against the trunk and cuffed him. He was shaking, muttering, "You can't pin anything on me." But when I looked inside the car, the passenger seat was empty. No signs of her. My gut told me to check the back. I opened the rear door, nothing. Just fast food bags, empty bottles, the mess of a man who didn't care. And then I popped the trunk. She was inside. Bound at the wrists, duct tape over her mouth, eyes wide and wet in the beam of my flashlight. For one awful second, she didn't move, like she thought it was still him. Then she started thrashing, sobbing through the tape. I pulled her out, cut the tape, held her while she shook. She whispered, "He said no one would ever find me." He said it over and over. I looked back at him. The same man who once beat her in her own kitchen. The same man who swore he'd take her where no one would ever look. And for the first time in my career, I wanted to hit a suspect in cuffs. Hard. But I didn't. He got 15 years. A sentence that sounded long until I thought about her face in that trunk, pressed into the metal, listening to the road hum beneath her while he drove her into nothing. I still see her sometimes, in the grocery store, once at the DMV. She's alive. But her smile looks borrowed, like it doesn't fit her anymore. That night taught me that sometimes the worst monsters aren't the ones who break in with knives or stalk you from the dark. Sometimes it's the man you said vows to. The man who once promised forever. This was the final story for tonight. If you've stayed with me through all 5, you already know, these aren't just stories. They're warnings. Because the truth is, the next shadow outside your window, the next stranger who lingers too long, the next set of footsteps echoing in the night, might not be part of a story at all. It might be you. Let me know what you think in the comments. This was Tell Me What Happened. I'll see you in the next story.